Post and University of Post and Telecommunications. And my research topics is a Corpus-Based study on Mandarin adaptation of English Coronal Fricatives. Now, why I'm interested in this topic is because I think by observing and generalizing the adaptation process, we could not only see the social and the cultural influences on phonetics and phonology, but also we can review the innate phonological grammars which may not be noticed otherwise. So, in this area about loanwords adaptation, extensive research has been conducted on this area. For example, in Cantonese, Japanese, Fiji, and the Korean. But for the loanword adaptation of English in Mandarin, which display a strong resistance to English loanwords, especially to those adapted through phonemic transliterations. And the other issue is that in the previous studies, the study mainly focused on the historical and logical and the social linguistic perspectives. I think that study is far from sufficient. So what I'm interested, I mainly focus on the the adaptation of English coronal fricatives si and shi, because we can see from this figure that they correspond with three voiceless fricatives si, shi, and xi in Mandarin. Since the mapping is not one-to-one, so the current study aims to focus on the three research questions. For the first one, what are overall adaptation rules of English coronal fricatives si and shi to the Mandarin si, shi, and xi? And the second question is, whether the vowels follow the coronal fricatives influence the mapping patterns? And third question is, does data show the orthographic influences on the adaptation of coronal fricatives? So the data set I collect is from this dictionary. I collected 848 loanwords that was from the Xinhua Loanword Dictionary, which is one of the most updated, comprehensive, and authoritative loanword dictionary to study the Chinese loanwords. So here's the overall adaptation pattern I found in my data. First, as you can see that the Mandarin phonemes si and xi are the most favorable phonemes which adapted from si and shi. And to be more specific, when the si is in the coda onset before schwa and the si cluster, Mandarin si is ideal adaptation. However, when the si is in the intervocalic position, xi is the most preferred adaptation phoneme. So it may indicate that the mapping of English fricative is influenced by the adjacent vowel. So in order to see how the vowel influences all the structure of the loanword adaptation process, I classify them according to the place of Mandarin vowels. For example, like the phoneme E is front and high vowel, and which is more salient than the schwa and the vowel in other positions. So you can see that the 77.7% of English si was adapted as the Mandarin xi when it is before a high and front vowel. The results show that when the following vowel is salient, the English si is mapped to perceptually similar sound, xi in Mandarin, regardless of the phonological faithful sound, which is Mandarin si. As for the adaptation of shi, over 50% of shi is adapted as Mandarin shi when it is in the coda and si cluster like in the figure. However, it is in the onset and intervocalic positions, it is more likely to be mapped to Mandarin xi. As for the vowel influences, shi is mostly mapped to Mandarin xi instead of the faithful mapping shi, regardless of the quality of the following vowel. And from the data set, we can also see there's a deletions and deviant mappings. And we can the deviant and deviant mappings show that there are semantic, and orthographic factors also influence the adaptation process, but they are systematic. They're following the Mandarin phonological rule or realizing the specific semantic meanings. So to conclude what I found in my studies, first, English coronal fricatives are variably mapped to Mandarin si, xi, and shi without showing overwhelming preference. Since the inhibition of CV combination C in Mandarin and lack of one-on-one mapping in English Mandarin fricatives, so the Mandarin recipient may look for other available alternatives. So the different perception may give rise to various adaptations. And the second conclusion is that Mandarin si is the most preferred mapping when si is in the coda onset C cluster and before schwa. However, when si is in the intervocalic position, Mandarin xi is more preferred. As for sure, it is more likely to be mapped to Mandarin C in onset and intervocal positions. So the phoneme shi shows her particular adaptation preference when it is before schwa. It indicates that the adaptation is influenced by the position or the adjacent vowel. It is noteworthy that when shi is in the coda position, it could be mapped to either xi or si in Mandarin, which is contrary to Miao and the Yang and Ho's findings. And the third one is that I think the quality of vowel influences adaptation of fricatives, which is supported by Lin's finding that the increase in vowel height is positively related to the occurrence of Mandarin C. In contrast to Yang and Ho's finding that Si and Shi are adapted as Xi when the following vowel is not a schwa, but the present study show that only if the perceptual salience of the following vowel is high enough, the following vowel could influence the mapping. So the result also demonstrates how different qualities of phonemes are relocated and preserved during the mapping process. But I think the major limitation of study is that in lack of statistical analysis, I think that more studies should be paid more attention to the deletions, which may shed light onto the underlying mechanism of phonological groups. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to present my question here, and it's very nice to have kind of a communication with you on this stage. So, among all the questions that I want to ask, I just choose one, because as the world is increasingly interconnected, right? Nowadays, so English as a world language is of more and more importance for many of us, right? So, my question is, English pronunciation, which is also very crucial, right? So, in order to improve our students' English pronunciation in the classroom activity, would you like to share some of your views, perspectives, and practice?
Thank you very much for your questions. And I totally agree with you that the English pronunciation is very important. As a teacher, I can find that there's not a lot of students cannot distinguish the English phoneme and the Chinese phoneme, and it will greatly hinder their oral communication and also their listening skills. So I think as a researcher, I think that first we should raise the awareness of English phoneme to teach students IPA, to help them to distinguish different phonemes and to enhance their accuracy. And I think second, they should have more pronunciation drills which should be integrated into our English curriculum, into our communicative skills, rather than treat it as a single skill. So to embed the pronunciation drill into our into the context, in the communicative context is very important. And also I think nowadays we can use a lot of multimodals and multimedia resources to help us to have the interactive activities and practices. For example, we can have some computer-based app and some training their apps, so we can use them to have a more individualized or personalized practice for students' pronunciation. Okay. I think this. Thank you very much.